We do have, I understand, some traffic issues on 64. And fortunately, this time it's coming from Norfolk, not coming from our western members, communities. So we've got some things to move through in the agenda that are, I guess I'll call sort of routine or pro forma, and they can get here. I believe they'll be here by the time we get to the important things. And so I'm going to call the Southeastern Public Service Authority meeting for August 2026, for August 26, 2026, Board of Directors meeting to order. And the first thing on the agenda would be we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
All right. Do we have anybody participating electronically?
Yes, William Moore is participating electronically. Mr. Moore?
Yes, I am currently on vacation in the Finger Lakes region of New York.
Well, thank you for anticipating our next question. And welcome, and we hope that, we thank you for taking time out of your vacation for SPSA.
No problem.
Public comment. Is there anyone registered to make a public comment?
No one has registered to make a public comment in person or electronically.
Okay. I just have a few comments. We'll get moving. Again, I'm being asked to remind everybody to confirm their attendance so IT can set up the electronic voting. I don't know if that's just something they want to keep saying or we're still having a problem with it, but please please respect that request. Do have some good news. There is government wheels are as slow as they are unstoppable, but the process of getting the Franklin and Chesapeake governor's approvals is slowly grinding forward. And according to our secretary, we have passed kind of a major hurdle. So hopefully we're on the downhill slide of that. Really two things that are very important on the agenda today. One is our year-end financials. Obviously, financial management is really number one next to operations with respect to what we do. And secondly, in the closed session, we're going to be discussing a proposed financing agreement involving our AMP, their lender, and SPSA. Very, very important topic. And so we're going to move through the agenda relatively swiftly if we can to leave plenty of time for that topic. The next issue would be to approve the minutes. The minutes were distributed and I've looked them over and found them in order. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes? Any changes, suggestions, errors, omissions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes. A motion by Mr. Broad, second by Mr. Moore. Any comments, additional comments? If not, electronic voting is open. And Mr. Moore, we would need your voice vote.
I vote to approve the minutes.
All right. Mr. Stanton, I think you used your finger. There you go. So we've got a unanimous vote? Okay, we have unanimous vote. The next issue up is our monthly AMP report, and Mr. Andrew Trump, AMP's general manager, will provide a monthly update.
Good morning. Nice to be here with you all and grouped as with the unimportant items agenda. So a few updates for this month. One, we're fully ramped now at the MSW facility, so we're really excited about that. We're running at steady state. Our recycling facility also fully ramped. We're still working to essentially draw down the tip floor. A lot of material accumulates while you're in installation, and so we're working to move that, but we're shipping commodities from that facility. We hope by the end of this month, so in the next week or so, that we'll be in a sort of a steady state there. The clean tip floor, material moving steadily, and a clear demonstration of how material is flowing through the SPSA system and ultimately to mills and other commodity buyers. Victory building design progresses. So we and our design consultants are working toward 90% design. So essentially finalizing design for the 2 areas of the Victory building that are required to be enlarged before we finalize all operations there. And then project financing. I know you all will be discussing this in a closed session today, assuming that there are no issues with the approvals there. Our hope is that we can close our financing sometime in the first week of September, and that will be pushing it. So if we slip beyond that, there's nothing to worry about. We don't have a confirmed date with the lender, but that's what we will be pushing for. AMSA. So looking back to July, again, top of this slide shows you our performance against the contract metrics. Bottom of this slide just shows you, once we've sorted material, what that distribution is. So this was the first month of the billing year, first month of the SPSA fiscal year. And as you can see, we performed well. Our goal is to hit by the end of that year a steady 30% or more of separated biochar eligible material and 20% or more of landfill waste reduction. My personal goal and the goal for our team on the site is to hit those metrics every month. And ideally, we get to a point where we're relatively steady, and what you're seeing is a steady line across the year. You'll see that for last month, we were a bit short of our goal on separated biochar eligible material. First month of the billing year, we have plenty of time. I have no concerns that we'll hit that for the year. And landfill waste reduction, we were well above. So this is the actual diversion that's being delivered. In terms of material distribution, as I said last month, once we have more operating months under our belt, I expect that we'll see some trends jointly as we look at this data, some ebbs and flows of distribution of sorted material between recyclables, organics, residue. What you'll see last month is a slight uptick in residue, held pretty steady with organics. I think a slight downturn in recyclables. At this point, nothing that seems out of the ordinary, and I expect in line seasonally with what we'll see in coming year. So with that, happy to answer any questions, board.
Mr. Trump, good morning. Quick question. The variability in your contract performance targets there, is that due to the input in the waste stream, or is there something internal to the process that's causing that variability?
I think it's likely that it's both. Some of what you'll see, so this is, this chart at the top started with February. Some of it is just us learning and fine-tuning the system, but I think you'll also see the effects of some seasonality. Hard to tell at this point how those, what is seasonal versus what is performance or operations driven. But I imagine that we're going to understand that pretty well starting in February of next year, once we've got a year of run under us, and we'll get smarter jointly as we go.
Thank you.
So Andrew, I have one question or perhaps an observation. At this current moment, of course, Virginia Beach and Virginia Beach and Norfolk are still running the blue can systems. I think those 2 entities account for almost half of the waste in the region. So I would assume that a whole lot of what would be presented to you at this point is already being diverted. But I did say maybe you had a comment. Are you looking at the waste composition coming in, and is that meeting within the parameters of what you expected, or are there differences?
A good question. At this point, there's nothing unexpected, but if more recyclable material enters that stream, we have the capability and the capacity to sort it. So our expectation would be that would increase the amount of landfill waste reduction and the amount of recovered materials that we had. Okay, thank you all.
This was something that we mentioned a couple of months ago in the context of putting together a policy on rules and guidelines for using SPSA's social media sites. In particular, that was in response to some comments that have been posted, and we wanted to have something that was clear and objective as to what our expectations were for that. And as we were having that discussion, we thought, well, we probably ought to go ahead and update and clarify the rules governing our board meetings, both with respect to the public comment period that we have and public hearings that we have from time to time. And, you know, a lot of what we have followed is almost gone into the category of lore built up over time as to what the, you know, speaker limits are and everything else. And we thought it'd be good to have a written policy, both to have these rules and guidelines as well as parameters on the kind of comments that will be tolerated or not in these meetings. And it's nothing here that is at all controversial. I don't think this is a common thing that most public bodies that have public meetings with public comment periods have in some form or another, and it's just to manage the meetings and provide those clear guidelines. So Zach Trees put this draft together based on some publicly available form, you know, other examples that other people were using. I edited it some, and Zach actually had found what appeared to be a very short resolution that had been passed in 2004 with a couple of rules. I don't know if it was actually passed or not, but anyway, the purpose of this is to put together a written, clear, you know, policy that we can post for the public to see and know what our expectations would be as a board as far as conduct and some procedural things, and also just rules about how it's going to how we're going to run our meetings and what we expect from people who are commenting during one of these periods. So if you look at it, as the chairman said, it starts on 25. The substantive part of it begins on page 28 in the board packet. But basically, you'll see it starts off with rules for registering for public comment, some specific guidelines on speaking time. Generally, will be limited to 3 minutes. And you'll see in this policy that all of these things are subject to change, either at the board's discretion or the chairman's discretion, as far as if to give us some flexibility, so it's not something that cannot be altered while we're having a meeting. But this is just to give some clear, objective rules. So we have registration, we have speaker time. We're noting that response that the board is, because we allow people to talk, doesn't mean that the board's got to answer any questions, respond to anything. It's a time for people to say their piece, but not necessarily engage in a dialogue with the board. We want to let people know that the meetings are going to be recorded, so if they are speaking, that it's possible that they will be recorded or broadcast. And then on page 29 is where you get into the guidelines and rules of conduct, and this is the more substantive part, but it's largely similar to our social media policy. And the idea is, as a public body, we can't prevent people from speaking based on the content of what they're saying as far as their viewpoint and that kind of thing. But if you have objective criteria, that
as far as, going to do personal tax, you're not going to do, things that are just purely business things, obscene. If you have an objective list of things that are prohibited, that can be enforced. And so that's what this is intending to do, is sort of say, here are the expectations generally of what you should stay away from. And it's not content based, it is content neutral, but it's trying to make sure that we keep decorum in the meetings. And it notes in the last page that if people, the chairperson, whoever's going to be the presiding officer for the meeting would be the one running things and applying these rules, and have the ability to cut off comments and that kind of thing. So happy to answer any questions, but from my viewpoint, there's nothing controversial here. This is pretty straightforward policy.
Thank you. There aren't any questions or comments. I would ask Mr. Spain to read the resolution to approve the proposed policy, and which is found on page 31 of the agenda packet. And then we would obviously ask for a motion and a second. Mr. Spain?
Okay, resolution, Southeastern Public Service Authority of Virginia policy on public comment periods and public hearings. Whereas during regular meetings of the Board of Directors, Board of the Southeastern Public Service Authority of Virginia, SPSA, the board typically reserves time to receive public comments and, as necessary, conducts public hearings on matters coming before the board. And whereas to promote the orderly and efficient conduct of board meetings and to provide guidance to the public regarding the expectations of the board regarding public comment periods and public hearings, the board wishes to amend its current rules and policies governing public comment periods and public hearings. Now, therefore, be it resolved that SPSA hereby adopts the public comment period and public hearing policy attached hereto as Exhibit 1, which policy shall apply to all meetings of the board.
All right, so I would entertain a motion and a second. A motion by Mr. Parnell, second by Mr. Person. Any additional discussion? And by the way, Mr. William Moore, I can't see on my screen if you have a question, so you just, if you do, you just need to sort of pipe up and speak up.
I will.
Okay?
Believe me, I will.
All right. If there's no additional discussion, the motion is on your screen now for a vote.
I vote aye.
And Mr. Moore votes aye. Do we have everybody now? Mr. Freeman, is he not? Oh, not here yet. Okay. All righty, so the motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, so, okay. All right, so now we will move to the part of our meeting where we turn it over to our executive director, and he's going to provide us an update on a number of issues. The most important is the year-end financials for fiscal 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item I have today is we did not have any milestone anniversaries. So I wanted to introduce someone who you all have seen settling in the room for the last 5 months or 6 months or so, and haven't had an opportunity to introduce her. It's Blanche Christian. She's in our IT department now. There are people in your organization that always just stand up when you need something specific. And through Blanche's career, she's been moved around a lot to fill holes that we needed due to her background. Blanche will have been with us for 26 years on the 10th of next month. Now, when you look at her, you say, well, she's not much over 26 years old, so how could she have been here 26 years? But she has. When I saw that number, I kind of had to take a double take and look back at the computer to make sure that I was correct, and she'd been here 26 years next month. But she started her career over at the RDF facility in the IT department, and not long after that, the IT department moved to the recycling department and moved it back over to ROB, and she came to ROB at that point as an IT specialist in the recycling department. And then she was moved and served as the assistant to the executive director and the previous executive director. And she served as the board secretary for, I believe, about 5 years, right, Blanche? 6 years, maybe. So she spent time in this room and very familiar with it. And then we had a real need. We were doing some software integration over at our fleet department and integrating multiple different softwares. And we brought in a new work management software, and we moved Blanche over to that location to assist Angie as we went through that transition. She did that not so much willingly at the time, but I think she eventually was very happy that she did that. We've got that project moving down the road smoothly, and then she moved from there back to IT at ROB in 2025, and since then she's been serving here in the boardroom. She's done an excellent job and always willing to do whatever it takes. So will you stand up, Blanche? And we appreciate everything you do, and certainly glad you're a part of our team. The next item on the agenda is the financial report, and I'm going to turn that over to Sandy Schreiber, our CFO. Over the next 3 months, we're going to be giving you a pretty substantial kind of shot of what our finances look like. For the last 10 years, we've been working hard towards getting to construction of Cell 7 and permitting of Cell 8, construction of Cell 7. And we put a lot of money away. The flyover is now almost complete. We put a lot of money into those projects over the last 10 years. Now we're at a point where there's been a lot of transition, a lot of changes, and we've still have projects that we need to get done. So next month, we're going to dedicate our financial portion of the meeting to our reserves and what those reserves are for, what it looks like for the future, what projects that are not currently on the boards that are kind of down the road that we're going to have to fund, and how we intend to fund that. The remaining funds in the reserve funds, we've been drawing the reserve funds down pretty drastically by plan to build the flyover and to construct Cell 7 and permitting of Cells 8 and 9. And next month will be strictly about the reserves. But this month, we're going to give you a quick snapshot of the money that we brought in for the FY26, and actually what was spent and what the surplus from the year was. So, and then in October, we will go back and we'll have your annual third-party audited financial report from the auditor. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sandy to go through the financial report for the year.
Good morning. So all of that is to say that Angie Shepard, who does our accounts payable, could tell you she's been very busy lately. So this is the FY 2026 operating budget and operating revenue and expenditures. Overall for the year, we ended up with $55.4 million in revenue, which was just over $2 million above our budget. Expenses, we were at just over $55 million in expenses, and that was $1.6 million over the budgeted expenditures. Revenue variances, I just went through in like some of the pretty significant items. I'm just going to touch on what they were and why the variance. Our white goods program was under budget by about $7,300, and that looks to be mostly a decrease in white goods that we've brought in, and it seems most significantly from Chesapeake. Miscellaneous revenue, we were $76,000 under budget. We participate in the Bank of America program for our P card purchases, and we get a rebate on those. And that rebate was significantly less this year than it has been, and that's because we have a lot of our vendors who now charge a fee to pay with a credit card. So anybody that charges a fee, we do not pay with the credit card. So that number is kind of going down every year. And then our interest income was about $1 million over budget, and that's just because of the high balances that we had towards the beginning of this fiscal year to be ready to pay for those flyover and landfill expansion costs. Variances in personnel expenses. Our overtime was $761,000 over budget. And that's because of the changes with SPSA sort. As they ramp up, transportation is changing, and we are looking at transportation right now and considering if there's a need to hire additional drivers. And our
I
workers.
would add to that on overtime, if transportation is kind of the core of that. If transportation has overtime, we also have overtime in transfer stations, and we also have overtime at the landfill. We've all along anticipated that once we're fully ramped at with SPSA sort, that we will need probably 4 more drivers. But one of the things I'm always cautious about is adding employees until you're certain what numbers you need. So we've made some significant changes in transportation and transfer stations, and Kyle is working closely with those 2 units to make sure that we're exactly where we are, that we're doing everything we can to be efficient, and then determine how many actual positions we're going to need. And we look at that. I think it's probably going to be in the number of about 4 additional drivers when it's all said and done. But we're not ready to make that recommendation to the board yet until we finish our analysis of staffing for transportation. And once you staff transportation properly, I think the overtime for transfer stations and for the landfill will decrease, because they won't have to stay open because they still have waste that's coming in.
So I have a question on that. Does that mean that we are in the coming year or so budgeting for more overtime?
No, sir. I think over this coming year, we've already decreased. Last month, our overtime decreased just from some operational changes that we made. So I think we'll certainly still have overtime over the next 6 months or so, but hopefully by our next budget cycle, which starts in December, we'll be able to make proper recommendations on staffing levels for transportation.
Okay, thank you.
Workers' comp premiums, we saw an increase in FY26. Those premiums are based on actual salaries. They come in and do an audit and a potential adjustment based on the actual salaries. So based on last year's overtime, which was not as significant as this year, but it was higher, and just overall salary increases, the premiums went up. And then they also factor in our recent workers' comp claims history. So that's the reason for the increase there. Professional services, the only thing really was the legal fees. We were over budget by about $287,000, and those are just related to the legal fees associated with the AMP agreement. Power, we were over budget by $104,000, and this is just overall the Dominion rates are going up, but it was also due to the addition of the Portsmouth transfer station and also the leachate evaporator being in service.
And I also would remind you that we opened the Portsmouth transfer station in January, and that was in line with the contract signing with AMP. Our original intention was to open the Portsmouth transfer station in July of this year. We opened that 6 months early because we signed a contract with AMP earlier, and that contract required that those route trucks from Portsmouth be moved back over to the transfer station. So we opened it 6 months ahead of time because of the early signing of the AMP contract.
The heating and gas line was over budget by $1.3 million, and this was due to the Virginia Natural Gas bills for the leachate evaporator. Since the initial startup of that, we have since switched that account to a different rate schedule with Virginia Natural Gas, so we have a significantly lower rate now, and those bills look much better.
When you request gas service from Virginia Natural Gas, and this is common, we've talked to a number of people and they've experienced the same thing. They put you on the rate they want to put you on, and you have to switch it after the fact. We've switched to an interruptible gas rate, which is a much lower rate, but they will not. It took about, Angie, I see you nodding back there because you worked specifically on this. I think it took us about 4 months to get that change made back to the interruptible service. So we were paying the highest cost at the highest rate schedule for 4 months, but yet Virginia Natural Gas would not go back and credit our account for those first 4 months. That's just the way they do business.
The water line was over budget by 37,000, and that's due to the addition of the Portsmouth transfer station. And then our phone costs were over budget by 144,000, and that was due to Portsmouth as well. And then we've also been expanding our hosted software services and just in general upgrading our communications and internet. Materials and supplies. The biggest thing in that group was the fuel, which, believe it or not, we were under budget by 225,000. Towards the beginning of the year, before fuel went up, we were doing really well on that budget. We did get worried at the end of the year, but overall, we ended up under budget by 225. And then waste hauling and disposal, we were over budget in both of the hauling and disposal costs just due to MBI hauling additional waste for us to the waste management landfill to save the space in our landfill.
And I'll also remind you on this that we've been tackling an issue where we were running out of landfill space at the landfill and trying to balance that with when we open cell 7 so that we have the capacity. So every day we're looking at how many tons we need to haul away and how many tons we need to bring in based on the airspace studies that SCS was doing on a bi-monthly basis. Our original airspace study said we would be out of space in August. Due to some of the operational changes we made. And this was one of them, hauling some of the waste out of the regional landfill to Bethel was one of the things we did. And then, as you know, we've redesigned the closure of the cells 5 and 6. That gave us additional airspace. And we're looking now probably, since we just received, it's Grace here, Grace, that we received the permit modification last month, right? The final permit modification for cells 5 and 6. That gives us capacity now for another 2 years in cells 5 and 6. So this was a kind of a everyday challenge of where do we need to take the waste to based on the number of tons of airspace we have left.
And I didn't say, but also the MBI hauling, as the fuel went up, their costs, they have a fuel surcharge, so that went up as well. Capital equipment, the current year's budgeted capital equipment, we had a budget of 4.4 million. We ended up spending about 3.2. And this was just towards the end of the year. We knew that the budget was going to be tight this year, and we just decreased some of that spending based on where we were with budget. So overall, we had 350,607 in surplus from our FY26 operating budget. And that's recommended that we put that into a reserve for the Portsmouth transfer station renovations. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Moore.
Yes, and looking at fuel for the current year, when last year or last winter when we adopted the budget, I don't know, I can't recall how we looked at fuel at that time. Do we still see how we trending this current fiscal year?
Yes, we knew at that point when we were budgeting that there was going to be an increase in fuel costs because of all of the international news that was coming out at that time. So we do have adequate funding at this point. Now, we don't know what the future is going to bring. And I've said this before, if I had a crystal ball and I could predict how much fuel was going to cost every year, I could be a millionaire. But we do the best we can with the information we have. And our budget this year is on target. But that's not to say that if prices continue to increase, and we don't pay what you see at the pump. We pay a rack rate, which is a much lower rate than you see at the pumps, because it takes out the taxes and all the other add-ons to the gas. So I think we're going to be okay. We did use that information that we had at the time to try to properly budget, but it is like trying to look at a crystal ball. As most of you in government know that already, it's a challenge.
Mr. Hanson, were you about to?
Just if we transfer the $357,000 to the designated reserve, and we do have an operational shortfall, there's nothing to preclude us from transferring it back. Is that correct?
No, sir. You have you can go. We can come to the board anytime and ask for a transfer from the fund balance into the operating budget if the need be.
Well, I'm not asking for fund balance necessarily. I'm asking to take the money that the excess.
That's at your
that we had from
discretion.
last year.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's at your discretion.
Thank you.
Mr. Stanton, did you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Schreiber, back on heating gas and propane, you said that there was a rate change there, rate structure, but was there it looks like there's a considerable amount more consumption there that drove that from 1,000 to over 1.
That is correct. It's an increase in consumption. We added on the leachate evaporator, which is fired from gas. We knew that was going to be the case. We were paying HRSD to dispose of our leachate. That's to some degree that's a transfer, but that number that you see there is an increase due to the rate that we were paying plus the volume that we used, because there was more volume based on bringing online the leachate evaporator.
Thank you.
But that number would not be nearly that amount if we had been placed on the interruptible schedule from the beginning.
And Dennis, if I could add one comment on the leachate evaporator.
Certainly.
We treated about 10 million gallons through the leachate evaporator. If we were to take that pump and haul to HRSD, that would have been about $400,000 of just their cost, not our cost to haul it either. So that was a significant portion of that.
So if I think I heard you correctly, that large cost, there was an offset and a reduction in cost to HRSD.
To some degree, yes.
Okay.
Not the full
Not
amount,
one-
because
not
we
one
paid
for one.
HRSD for 6 months. The evaporator's been on about 6 months now.
So I have one question. Is there, I assume you guys have looked at this. We are obviously producing and selling natural gas back to the gas network. Have we looked at whether or not it's capable, feasible, reasonable to provide our own natural gas for the leachate evaporator? And the second question would be, are you looking at the current FY 2027 budget for all of these issues to see if you need to fine tune them?
The answer to the latter question is yes. The answer to the first question is yes. We did do an analysis of what the royalties bring us versus what we would save would we use landfill gas. It doesn't make sense from a cost standpoint to use the landfill gas to fire the concentrator, because we make more from that than it's actually going to cost us.
Fair enough. Do we have anybody else? Mr. Hanson again.
And to your point, Mr. Leahy, those landfills who have concentrators that do not have RNG facilities connected to the landfill do typically use landfill gas because it is the smart thing to do. We looked at that with the RNG facility, and it does not make sense financially.
Good. Mr. Hanson.
Yeah, I think you and I were at the exact same place here. It was like, wait, we're selling gas. How much are we getting for what we're selling? And then we're buying gas. How much is it costing us to buy it? And then understanding the market disruptions that are going on currently, not likely to be resolved in the next couple of months. So I thank you for asking the question.
And I think really what the driver of that are the RINs that come along with that gas. It makes it very lucrative to produce renewable natural gas, much more lucrative than buying.
I trust you.
buying
I
natural
trust you
gas.
guys have looked at it. Mr. William Moore, do you have any questions?
No further questions.
Okay, thank you. Any other additional questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to transfer the $357,607 of net surplus from the FY 2026 operating budget to a designated reserve for renovations to the Portsmouth Transfer Station. A motion by Mr. Hanson. A second by Mr. Sorry. Is there any additional discussion? If not, the floor is open for a vote. And Mr. Moore, William Moore.
I vote
will
to
take your
approve.
vote. Was that an aye?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Have everybody? Okay, so motion carried. Thank you very much. So the next item is to go into closed session.
No, sir.
No? I'm sorry, you're not done. My apologies.
Next, we'll have Zach is going to give us a quick update on communications.
All right, good morning, everyone. Here comes the school year. That our families are ready to sit. Our supplies for 35 SPSA school children, making sure they're ready to get back into the school year. And thank you to all SPSA staff, family members who contributed to that. And also thank you to Rebecca Hartley, our scale attendant supervisor back there, for organizing that. I see she's trying to also give credit to someone, but Rebecca, that was all you. So thank you.
If I can add one thing, this is something I'm really proud of. As a lot of our employees are struggling day to day. And I remember back when I had children and they started school, it was always a burden to get them ready to go to school. And this came up just a couple of years ago that we would provide school supplies for all of our SPSA employees as a group. And these supplies come from donations from employees, and they go directly to SPSA employees who have children in school. We do a pretty thorough vetting of who has children. We make sure the opportunity is there. Some folks, some of our administrative team and others don't take school supplies for their kids, but we do give them to everybody has children that wants it. And really, it's a feel-good thing for everybody here at SPSA, and I'm really proud of staff for doing that.
Yeah, there's no better feeling than going back to school with a fresh pencil, fresh notebook, fresh backpack, start that learning. All right, so as usual, we will just go over some outreach, and then we'll provide a sort update focusing on some of the organics communications that we're planning to put out. So you can see some of the highlights there for the last month. I won't go over all of them. I'll focus on mostly the August 12th Fort Lauderdale Waste and Recycling Expo. Andrew and Dennis will notice that the background has changed a little bit. I put a fireside behind you guys. It sort of matched the energy that was designed to be a fireside chat, even if it wasn't there. But that was definitely the spirit of that discussion. It was very interactive, very engaged audience. I don't know if Dennis has told you all, but yeah, there's a lot of leadership from Miami-Dade County and their solid waste team, very interested in what we're doing, our story, and they've put out a zero waste master plan very recently, and it was a way to reduce the waste stream by 90%. They have very competitive goals there to reduce it, and they heard about this solution and what we're doing in our region, and they pretty much figured like, well, we have to learn more about that. We have to see that. They want to set up a tour to learn more. So just really speaks to this story that we're creating in our region. A great recipe. You can also see Dennis and Scout there making an appearance on Coast Live. Be sure to check that out. We could send out a link if board members are interested in seeing that appearance on August 20th. All right, so getting into SPSA sort. You know, we talk a lot about SPSA sort, and recycling is a very important topic in our region. It's obviously a topic that residents are interested in, but we don't want to forget about the O portion, the organics portion. And so as we're going out and engaging with community members, we're looking for ways to increase that understanding of sort. And so here we have just a very simple message that we think could be used as sort of a vision to guide that next step in communicating to our residents. So I'll just read it here. Biochar provides an opportunity to expand SPSA's community outreach beyond traditional recycling and demonstrate how organic materials can be converted into valuable products that support environmental and economic outcomes. So this is just a sort of engine that we're going to use to fuel what that would look like with communicating the O of sort. And so what would that breakdown look like? Well, we need to start with a problem, and that problem is that organics in the waste stream create greenhouse gases and take up landfill space. Talk a lot about landfill space and how important it is and taking that back, but we don't touch on the greenhouse gases enough. And the main one that we deal with and manage is methane. And just to give you some quick facts about methane, methane is 28 times more potent than CO2. Landfills are the third largest man-made source of methane in the United States, and food waste is the majority creator of methane. About 60% of the methane in our landfills is created by food waste. So just to go over that, it's, you know, food creates a lot of methane. Our landfills create a lot of methane and produce it in the US, and methane is very potent. And this is all in an era where climate change is on the rise. And so the solution to that SPSA sort provides is that it removes those organics and processes them in an environmentally positive way. And it's not just removing existing methane, it's actually preventing that methane from being created in the first place. Because of that pyrolysis process, when we're making that biochar, it's sequestering that carbon into that solid state, stable state of matter, and preventing that methane from even having to be managed in the first place. So it's incredibly efficient. And then we get those outcomes. We get a product in biochar, has many uses. We get that carbon capture, the environmental benefit, and that landfill space that we know is so valuable. And so what this is doing is really speaking to what we're after, right? We're all about creating a more circular economy. And so I know we've talked about that a lot, and I just wanted to define it here. This is the EPA's definition of a circular economy. A circular economy keeps materials and products in circulation for as long as possible. It reduces material use, redesigns materials and products to be less resource intensive, and recaptures waste or material that was previously considered to be a waste as a resource that can serve as feedstock to manufacture new materials and products. And so biochar and that production is a strong example. And that's just because organic material in our waste that's recovered from trash and diverted from the landfill, that recovered material is transformed, right? That's that feedstock that's being transformed into a new material. We get that biochar, and that can be used in new products. Concrete's been identified just as one. And so this is creating that value, you know, long after that waste has left the stream, that item has value. And so SPSA sort is not just about, you know, diversion. It's not just about recyclables. It's really about giving half of our wastes a second life. And so just some community objectives then. What we want to do is educate residents, educate them about our organic waste and the impacts that it has, right? It's important to manage this in the best way possible. We need to educate our residents about biochar. It's a new material to them. It's not new in life, really. Biochar has been around for a while, but this is a new word that we're introducing sort of the landscape. And we need to talk about what it is, how it's processed, what are its benefits, and connecting all that to SPSA sort. We're turning our trash into resources. So this reinforces our commitment to long-term sustainable waste management solutions that reduce that landfill reliance, maximizing the resource recovery, and contribute to a more circular economy. And so this is just what's going on in our heads as we figure out that way to provide information about organics to the public. Starting points are definitely going to be going back to our website, FAQs, making a fact sheet, just being more direct and upfront about organics and that O in sort. And that wraps up the presentation. I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions? I have one observation. I read an article this week. University researchers, I'm not sure, don't remember the university, but they have discovered a process to turn PET, that's polyethylene terephthalate. It's what the water bottles are made out of. It's the circular recyclable number 1. And they found a way to turn that into some kind of starch or carbohydrate where they actually have made cookies out of it. I'm not sure we're ready to eat those yet, but the implication was that they had biologically converted this back to a carbohydrate, and then they had made a cookie out of it. So maybe we'll start off with feedlots for animals first. I'm not sure before you're getting your pack of Oreos from. Okay, but anyway, I thought it was pretty impressive, and maybe amps upon it. I don't know. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Trees? Nope. Okay, thank you, Zach. Let's go on.
Zach's gonna stick around because he and Kyle are gonna tag team this next topic that's become very, very important.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Just remind everybody, margarine's 1 molecule away from plastic. So Zach's communications update leads directly into an important operational priority that we have, and that's our landfill fire prevention and response plan. That plan addresses prevention, early detection, our response to that, the environmental protections we put in place, recovery, and then continuous improvement like all of our operations. It's the largest and most important component of the plan is prevention through education. Our goal is to keep lithium-ion batteries and other rechargeable batteries and household hazardous waste out of the trash before it ever reaches a SPSA facility. And the only way to do that is through education. Operational elements that we take into account is employee awareness, early detection on our tipping floors, coordinating emergency response, which we do really well with our member communities, especially the city of Suffolk. But they're a backstop when prevention fails. So we really want to focus on prevention of that. You see here some of the dangers of improper battery disposals and those numbers. I won't read the slide, but it's not just happening in Hampton Roads. This is nationwide. It's growing exponentially because of the widespread use of rechargeable devices. Everywhere you look, we have those even on our tables here with our microphones and cell phones. Improper battery disposal is not an abstract risk. It's not unique to SPSA. We've seen hot loads have been dumped in our communities through other carriers. We've had 2 landfill fires in the last 6 months that are directly caused by lithium-ion batteries or rechargeable batteries. This is really why public education is the most important component of our risk control measures for landfill fires. Lithium-ion batteries and other rechargeables do not belong in our municipal waste stream, and the only way to prevent that is through education.
Cal, if I can just add, we've had 2 fires in the last 6 months, but we've had 4 fires in the last year. And we had a 5th fire that was a result of lightning strike on a gas well, but 4 of those fires in the last year have been contributed to lithium-ion batteries.
Thank you, Dennis. And we should acknowledge that improper disposal is not always caused by indifference. It's not because people simply chuck it in the bin and don't think about it. Disposal systems can be confusing. Residents may not realize that a toy or a vape, musical greeting card that you get from Hallmark, a power tool, or other small appliances actually even contain rechargeable batteries. They might see a battery recycling symbol and confuse that with a recycling symbol that they can put in the SPSA sort system or in the blue bin. Some common barriers to proper disposal include identification. Rechargeable batteries are built into a lot of devices, like especially if you have an iPhone, that you can't replace that battery by yourself. It's built into the device. Confusing labels, as mentioned. Embedded batteries that cannot be safely removed by the consumer. And just to remind everybody, we encourage you to bring that to the HHW facility and we will dispose of it properly. Limited convenience. Proper disposal usually requires a separate trip somewhere to dispose of it, either to the regional landfill at our HHW facility or elsewhere at other consumers. And then locations may not accept certain batteries. So part of that is looking to where we can take them and that public educational piece. And I want to turn it back over to Zach to talk specifically about what we intend to do to educate the general public.
Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to give credit and recognize many in this room, public works departments, fire departments that are already doing this. You already know this is an issue. I've seen the outreach out there, talking to residents, trying to communicate that message that these batteries are an issue. It's a safety issue for our entire communities. And so SPSA, we are here to collaborate in any ways. Please reach out to me if you want to set something up with your community. But here are just some basic ways in which we can enter this conversation and, in addition, provide some of that material. So we want to have a dedicated webpage on our website. Right now, batteries, they fall under HHW, household hazardous waste. I'm not sure if residents are thinking about batteries when they hear an HHW event and they're thinking about paint, they're thinking about cleaning supplies. They're not really thinking about those common rechargeable items that are everywhere in our homes. Sometimes they break, sometimes they're just unwanted, and those are devices that people can collect and bring to our facilities. In addition to other facilities around the community. It doesn't have to be SPSA who's recovering it. There's places like Best Buy Batteries Plus, different opportunities where these batteries can be safely disposed of. And so we want to stand up this webpage, provide that information about battery safety. It'll have everything on there, different places where residents can dispose of these items. We want to launch all of this around Fire Prevention Week. That's starting up October 4th. And so that's coming around the corner. I've already been speaking with some local fire departments, as well as, just communities, public works departments. Please let us know if there's any opportunities where we can do some in-person outreach, where we can collaborate on social media to amplify that message about batteries, rechargeable batteries, really. We plan on having giveaways, things like tote bags, magnets, to have that information on there. The tote bag serves as a dual purpose. It not only has a message on there when you're, say, at a grocery store, but this is also a bag that you could use as your battery rechargeable device bag. Put all your items in it, take it to a deposit point. And we already have a plan to be on the Coast Live scheduled in late October, where we will be focusing on batteries and disposal options. So this is just a introductory, a Band-Aid to an issue that we know requires long-term treatment. So it's going to take continued resources. I believe that's all we wanted to touch on, but we're here for questions.
Are there any questions for Kyle or Zach? No? Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to Cell 7 construction. The excavation in Cell 7 is now complete. All of the soil has been removed. Installation of the geocomposite drainage media, which is the first step of construction of the landfill, has begun. Underliner drainage piping has been installed to go up the slope and pull the groundwater from underneath of the liner once we start to fill it. The underground electrical and leachate vaults are being installed now. The leachate piping is being installed around the perimeter of the cell. Landfill piping, landfill gas piping is being installed, and current completion is tentatively scheduled for early December. Here's a picture of the geocomposite material being laid in the northeast corner of the cell. Then the next picture is going to show where they've started on the other side to begin to lay some of the geo material. And you see that gray area in the corner where they kind of stopped and started. That's a wet area where we're addressing currently. And then at the bottom of the black section on the left, those are, you can't really see it well, but those are bulldozers and off-road dump trucks and excavators. They're actually putting the geocomposite layer of buffer layer on top of that material now as they move forward with continuing to lay the geo fabric. Here, I wanted to share with you here, Mr. McCoy insisted that he go out and take a survey, and he says everything's good, so you should be comfortable that everything is just fine. He said things are looking good. He did come out, and I really, he misses not being here, but he really appreciated the chance to go out, and we took him on a tour, took him down to the bottom, and here's a shot from the bottom of the landfill looking up. Mr. McCoy was very pleased to have been out there, and I'll let him know that we put a picture up for the board meeting. You all appreciated it. Moving on to the leachate evaporator for July, the total throughput was just over 1.2 million gallons. That's just over 40,500 gallons per day. The runtime for the evaporator was 558.8 hours, or 75% of the time that of the year, but the actual available time was 92%. I was at the landfill late last week, and I can tell you that I never saw the ponds that store the leachate any lower than they are now, and that's to the reason why we only operated 75% of the time, because we didn't need to operate any more than that. There's a rain cap that comes down, and our operators tell me that the key is to try to keep it just above the rain cap so we don't have any soil degradation underneath of the rain cap. So that's what they've been doing. And that's why they've only had to run the leachate evaporator 75% of the time, but it was available at 92%. The other 8% was maintenance time. And we pump and hauled 13,000 gallons, which is 3 tractor trailer loads. And that was done during one of those heavy rain days that we had, just to kind of be prepared and offset the additional rain that we had. So the leachate evaporator is doing probably better than we expected when we put it in originally. July tonnages, I did this, normally you see this on a graph. I did it on a graph, and there was one dot in the graph, so it looked kind of funny. So I said, I'll hold off on the graph until we have several months. So this month, municipal tons were 44,836 tons, and I put that number in green so you know that's above the target. And commercial tons were at 28,776, and that's in green because it was above the target. So the first year of the fiscal year, we're doing well in terms of what we budgeted for and what we actually received. And with that, I'll take any questions anyone may have on the executive director's report. If there are none, Mr. Chairman, we'll need a motion for closed session.
Okay, so our next item on the agenda is to go into closed session, and I will read the motion and ask for someone to move that and second it. I move that a closed session be held for discussion regarding the proposed financing consent requested by AMPS lenders pursuant to the Waste Supply and Services Agreement in accordance with Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A8 for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. I'd entertain a motion and a second. So moved by Mr. Moore, second by Mr. Broad. If there's any additional discussion, hang on a minute. Where we discussed the issue with who's going to attend. That was up here, okay. So yeah, I guess the people who will be present for the closed session are board members, SPSA executive staff, SPSA council, including Mr. Brett Spain and Mr. Brad Nowak. And did Mr. Nowak have a associate here?
Yes, sir, he does.
And so Mr. Nowak and his coworker, maybe a fellow partner. Yeah, I do want, and one of his co-partners. There you go. I knew I'd get it right. Are there any other requests for participants to attend the closed session from any of the, Mr. Sori?
Yes, I'd like our council to.
Okay. Are there any other requests?
Same.
And Mr. Sori and Mr. Hughes both would like their members from their city councils to city attorneys' offices to attend. Any opposition from the board on that? Nope. Looks like we've got everybody covered. So now I would entertain the motion to go into closed session. So we had a motion and a second. So now we'll take a vote on it. And this has to be a voice vote, right? Roll call vote.
Yes. Mr. Sori,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Robertson. Mr. Broad,
Yes.
Mr. Person. Mr. William Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts. Mr. Parnell. Mr. Parker. Mr. Almore. Mr. Hughes. Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Hanson.
Okay, so we're now in closed session. Have everybody back who wants to be back? Okay, I will read a motion to put us back into open session and to certify the closed session. The Board of the Southeastern Public Service Authority of Virginia hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, A, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law under the Freedom of Information Act, and B, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just concluded. I have a motion. A motion by Mr. Hanson.
Second?
Who second? Second by Mr. Stanton. Any discussion? If not, we'll take a voice roll call.
Mr. Story,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Robertson.
Yeah.
Mr. Broad,
Yes.
Mr. Person, Mr. William Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Parnell.
Yeah.
Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Mr. Almore.
Yeah.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Leahy,
Yes.
Mr. Hanson.
Okay, so we've certified the closed session, and now Mr. Brent Spain, our general counsel, will discuss the consent to the collateral assignment in open session, and then we'll see if the board's willing to take action.
The next matter coming before the board is a financing consent that council's been negotiating with AMP and its lender Galvanize. It's called a consent and agreement. We have with us today Brad Nowak and John Faber from Williams Mullen, who will go over the details. But this is part of the AMP agreement. It was anticipated that financing would be required for this project and that the lenders that AMP would get would insist on certain assignments and pledges of collateral to secure the loan that they are going to be providing. And that's what this document is doing. And so I'll turn it over to Brad for a short summary.
Great, thank you, Brett. As Brett had mentioned, the Waste Supply and Services Agreement that SPSA entered into with Commonwealth Sortation last year contemplates that Commonwealth would have the right to assign its interest as collateral to secure financing for the project. We've received a copy of the credit agreement that is being negotiated with Commonwealth, and it is a condition precedent to their closing under that agreement. The purpose of the consent is that it supplements the WASA by acknowledging and consenting to such assignment and conferring upon the lender certain additional rights and remedies with respect to the WASA. Those would include cure rights, step-in rights, and the right to receive notices and exercise certain remedies on the occurrence of various events. Under the proposed consent, SPSA would consent to Commonwealth Sortation pledging its rights under the WASA to Galvanize Capital Solutions Pooling 1 LP, which would act as the collateral agent on behalf of itself and other lenders. Just as a brief overview of the consent, there are various obligations that SPSA would agree to. Those would include, first would be notices that SPSA would have an obligation to give the collateral agent, notices of certain key events that would occur under the WASA, such as any Commonwealth default, any performance suspension, dispute resolution between SPSA and Commonwealth, any liquidated damages or payment adjustments, or if SPSA had drawn upon any credit support. In addition, the collateral agent has various consent rights under the WASA, and consent would be needed by the collateral agent to take certain actions, such as to terminate or suspend the WASA, to materially amend it, or dispose of or for SPSA to dispose of its interest in the WASA. The consent also includes a concept, what's frequently called a standstill period, which if Commonwealth defaults and SPSA gave notice of its intent to terminate the WASA, then SPSA would not be able to terminate for a specified period, which under the current consent would be up to 18 months, while the collateral agent attempts to cure or stay from curing those activities. Under the consent, collateral agent would try to retain AMP management or similarly skilled persons if that occurred prior to the first anniversary of the facility commencement dates. In the event, once the standstill period ends and the collateral agent is able to find a successor, then in order prior to that successor, all existing defaults under the existing WASA would have to be cured before the collateral agent or the successor would step in to Commonwealth's role. The successor then would be responsible for any future Commonwealth obligations. And the successor transfer is subject to the current WASA, which has various requirements and approval rights of SPSA to ensure that there's a qualified transferee. With that, I can take any questions.
If there's no further discussion or question, I would ask for a motion and a second to authorize the executive director with the advice and assistance of legal counsel and the chairman to finalize, execute, and deliver the consent and agreement with Galvanized Capital Solutions Pooling 1 LP and Commonwealth Sortation LLC substantially in the form presented to the board and to perform SPSA's obligations thereunder. I have a motion by Mr. Broad and second by Mr. Moore. Any additional discussion? Well, if not, we'll take a vote, and I think we can vote electronically. And Mr. William Moore, how's your vote? Can we have your vote?
I vote yes to approve.
Okay. Everybody in? Okay, so the motion is carried. Thank you very much. At this point, do we have any other business to bring before the board? Well, if not, then I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Bill, thank you for taking time from your vacation.
No problem.